All right. So thanks so much for everyone for joining us tonight. I'm Kara. I think I know most of you here. And we're joined for part 3 of our series, our last workshop in this series. We're here with Heather and Savannah today. I don't think I'll do our bios just because I think everyone knows who everyone is at this point. But Heather and Savannah have some really exciting updates to share about some new ventures they have too. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that, but I think we'll just dive right in. After today's workshop, the next workshop is on April 23rd, and I'll be hosting that. We're going to be doing a really deep dive into website SEO. So that information, that registration is on our event page. Please feel free to go and register for that. But I will go ahead and hand it over to you two because I know we're always really short on time with this.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Kara. After a lovely few weeks together, this is our third and last workshop. So we are excited to finish up the series with converting your creativity. So whether you've joined us for every workshop or just caught up on the recordings, we just hope that we're able to kind of provide you some really great tools for your digital toolbox. So yeah, we'll get started with today. So when we have converting your creativity, the kind of thought behind that is that we're really going to work into turning creativity into clicks, conversions, and hopefully actual customers. So we'll be touching a little bit on SEO. If you want to get further in, I would recommend going to Kara's SEO later on in April. We might be attending as well. I really love to see kind of what is going on in that industry. We're also going to talk today a little bit about Google Analytics, social media metrics, and we know it's a big topic, all of it. So just hang in there with us and ask questions. Please feel free. We're going to try to be as clear and as succinct as we can be.
We've met us a few times already, but I am Savannah Barkley and I am the co-founder of Bloom Collective. My other small business is Sir Milky Quartz, and I am a accessory and jewelry designer as well.
And I am Heather Wolfenden, also a co-founder at Bloom. My other business is Island Vintage, a brick and mortar vintage clothing store.
All right, so today we are going to go through class thinking about how we can be intentional with your marketing and just like effort in general. We want to really try to make sure that your effort isn't going in the right direction. And when getting started, we find that it's more impactful to fully explore a few avenues of approach versus trying to do it all at once. The data you uncover from trying out a few things might just be what you need to start moving in a direction which is fueled by your creativity. Take your time with this and know that the results don't often happen overnight.
And a lot of the theme today is around conversion. So we'll be chatting about that because that's really where your online effort can start turning into actual results for your website when you do it the right way. So I'm sure you're already putting in a lot of creative work for your business. So all we have to do now is tracking conversions to really make sure that what you're doing is landing well. And then you can make adjustments as to how you can make that land even more effectively.
All right, so what is a conversion? So a conversion is really just simply a way of saying a desired action. So this could be a sale, a button click, a sign up, a download, the list just goes on and on. Conversions are important because, well, they're often the whole point of your marketing efforts. It's the thing you want to lead your customer to, and when they do it, you can measure the success of your plan or your ad or your website. Conversions get particularly important when you're paying for advertising and will be the way you can measure the success of any campaign that you run.
And when we're looking at conversions, it's really important to pay attention to metrics and data, which we will spend a lot of time kind of going over today, which is the quintessential way to improve your online presence. It can be very easy, as I'm sure a lot of you know, when you're posting online and you're just trying things, you can waste a lot of time and energy and money on things that are not working, especially if you're not reviewing the data behind that. So that's what we're really going to be looking into today. And the first part of that is looking at Google Analytics, which is a really amazing place to start. If you do not already have a Google Analytics account for your website yet, we definitely recommend doing it as soon as you possibly can. It is, first of all, free. And it's full of helpful information about how people are actively and actually using your website. So if you need some help getting that set up, there's a link in the worksheet that Kara sent you for today's workshop, with a how-to guide on installing Google Analytics on your website. Depending on what platform you use, it might be a little bit different, but that guide really goes through just about anything. And if that doesn't cut it, YouTube is a great resource as well. So once your Google Analytics is set up, try to monitor it weekly to check your web traffic. You can see what pages people are visiting the most. For example, maybe they're spending a lot of time on your about page, which essentially might tell you that they're really extra curious about your story and you should spend more time and energy looking into developing that. Maybe you're finding that one particular service page of yours or product page is getting a lot more views than the others. And that might be your strongest offering and you didn't even realize it. So maybe that's something that you want to highlight in different areas of your website or on your social media pages too. A really cool thing to look at is your bounce rate. If you're not familiar with that, that basically just shows how many people leave your website without actually clicking anything. As you can imagine, you do not want that number to be particularly high. You want people to go on your website and engage with it and do something, whether that's buying a product, signing up for your newsletter, or whatever it may be. So when you look at that number on Google Analytics and you see that it's like, say, 75%, because that is an industry standard number that's like relatively high across the board. Depending on your industry, that number can really vary. It can be as high as 60%, and some folks might consider that okay. So, do a little bit of research on your industry, but if that number is going to be super high, it's essentially going to signal that something's off on your website. Like maybe your homepage is loading too slow, or your messaging isn't clear enough to capture people, or you're just sending a lot of people there that are the wrong customers. They're not actually like understanding your products, or they're just not the people that you want there in the first place. So when you look at that number, you try to improve that number, you can see the things that are happening, use it as an opportunity to fix what's just not working well for you. And another really cool option on Google Analytics is seeing where your people are coming through. So you can track the links that people find you from, whether that's like on your Instagram, or maybe they like searched you on Google and they found you, and you can see what Google searches are generating the most traffic to your page. And then you can kind of lean into that on ads and other things. So there's a lot on Google Analytics that you can really lean into and start to grow your business with. You don't necessarily need to be a data expert, which is really great about Google Analytics. You can be a data expert and you can learn all kinds of things, but there's a few key things that'll really just tell the story very cleanly for you that Savannah will get into a little bit next.
Absolutely. So like all dashboards, you can dive as deep as you want to, but I think, most business owners are, unless you're running wildly complicated campaigns and whatnot, are really just going to start off with looking at a few key metrics that are really going to help to like change the game if you just understand a little bit about what's happening there. It's not all rocket science. It can actually be information that you can take and apply to your business, tomorrow. So when you pop up with Google Analytics, your dashboard that you're going to be faced with is going to have a couple of key panels that will be helpful to get familiar with. So the first off being acquisition. So this panel is simply telling you where you acquired that traffic from, like Heather was mentioning. This is particularly important when you're putting in effort and funds, whether paid or organic, and you want to know whether those efforts are coming back to your site. Like, say you had like a magazine article go out about your business and they have an online link that is directly linking back to your site. Or you are running a Google ad campaign, or you're running an Instagram ad campaign, or you just, posted an application for something on Instagram, and then you're getting a ton of traffic from that. So the cool thing about this is that it will always kind of tell you where that traffic is coming from. And if it is coming from Google, it'll give you the little bit of extra information in terms of which Google search keywords are actually being used to find your website, which is really cool. And that can be used to your advantage when building out ad campaigns, or even putting keywords for SEO on your website too, to kind of drive up that kind of traffic even more. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. So this is also an absolute reason why having a website is so valuable, because you can actually use Google Analytics to track and measure traffic coming from all those multiple sources that are like funneling into your website. So it's a nice catch-all place where you can use to, or essentially where you can see all of this information coming through that you can really use to your benefit, and quantify essentially, which is why I totally recommend that everyone have some kind of website, even if it is just a landing page. So the second thing here is pages. So this panel is referring to the pages on your website. This is a clear indicator of which pages that people are actually visiting on your website the most, or maybe that's the page they found off of Google, that's being picked up by keywords the most because it's potentially written the best, it has the best SEO, or it's just a page that customers are really interested in, like Heather was mentioning, like your about page, or maybe you have an events page on your website or a workshops page, and that's really what people are excited about when they land on your site. It could also be something about how your UI or UX is working on your site and where people are kind of getting funneled to. So there's a lot of information there. And you will find that often this page is your landing page for an ad that's performing well and being visited a lot. And if that's the case, then if your ad is performing well, especially if your page is picking up a lot of conversions, then you're running a good and effective ad. So you can see all that data in Google Analytics as well. I think that these top pages should be given a bit more attention, as they are likely organically drawing a little bit more, attention from customers that are visiting your site or just from Google itself. And then try to dive into what key elements are helping that page out, and essentially, replicate that throughout the rest of your site if you can. The third thing on the panel is real time. So here you can see live visitors to your site. This is great if you want like automatic insights on your site right after you've launched a product or service, sent an email, or made an announcement. You can see right away what activity is happening, who's on your site, how many visitors there are, where they're coming from geographically, and how long they're staying on your site. Sometimes your real-time visitors, especially if you're just starting out running Google Ads, might be coming from like all the wrong places, like places you don't even ship to, places, or they could potentially be like bots on your site. So there's a lot of things that you just need to kind of get used to seeing. And over time, kind of figure out, use the tools that we're going to go over today to craft your website experience to make sure you're getting less of the traffic you don't want and more of the traffic you do want. And the fourth thing is conversions. So as you mentioned, these are key. And although the only way you'll see data in some cases here in Google Analytics essentially is if you have conversion tracking set up correctly for your site. So if you find that you're making sales and bookings and Google Analytics isn't necessarily picking them up, you may need to troubleshoot to be sure it's reading everything correctly. Google and YouTube have some great how-tos if you're kind of finding that that's a disconnect on your website, and you can make sure to get that conversion tracking set up so it is actually tracking the right type of conversion on your website. And like I said, that could be anything from like button clicks to sales to, form fill outs. So just make sure that if you are seeing a lot of conversions that are actually happening on your site and they're not reflected in Google Analytics, you might want to take a deeper look. All right. All right, so up next is another key set of platforms you all know too well, Facebook and Instagram, which have their own analytics dashboard known better as Insights. If on your IG you don't see the option for this dashboard, you might just need to change your profile type to a business profile to gain access to this information. So that's definitely an important differentiation to keep in mind. And so once you're in, it's definitely a wealth of data, which can tell you more about how your content is performing. Outside of just like likes and shares that you can see regularly. The goal here is really just to study your insights and use key metrics like those shares and likes and comments and reach and link clicks to guide your content in a direction that will perform well. Especially if this is your main goal to essentially be, generating revenue and conversions from the things that you're posting online. This might just give you the knowledge you need to feel confident to boost a post and put a little money behind it, or turn that content into an advertisement that you can run on Google or Meta. So this is a really, really great insight panel. And essentially, all of these things are working together when you have Google Analytics and your Instagram and Facebook set up, and then your website's connected. So you're drawing data from a lot of places that's kind of all going to create a very clear picture after a little bit of time, and some trial and error too.
Okay, so once we start to compile all of this data, what can we actually do with it is the question, and hopefully make really good decisions on your business. actively using the data that you pull from Google Analytics, from Instagram, and from your Facebook insights, it really allows you to create one of the biggest shifts that you can make in your business, because it takes you from guessing at how well everything is that you're putting out there is performing into actually knowing what's going on and what's doing well for you in your business. You have probably already put in a lot of hard work, whether that's on your website, on your social media, on all of those things, even in terms of writing product descriptions and all that really fun stuff that you're getting into nitty gritty on your website. It's a lot of work. So you want to make sure that you use data, because it can help you figure out what's actually landing. So that way you're not working harder, you're working smarter. You will hear that, I'm sure, a few times tonight, because it's a really big theme here. For example, like when we talk about Google Analytics, if a certain product page is getting the most traffic, then that's your sign to feature it more. Share it in a post on social media, spotlight it in your email, or give it more attention at your next market. You're basically getting free insight that tells you that that product is the most interesting, whether that's because of the words that you're using, because of the photos that you're using, because it's just a really bang out product and people like to see it. It's telling you, when you look at your analytics, if this is the product that everyone's looking at and spending the most time on, there's something going right there. On the opposite end of that, if you're looking at your data and a product that you thought was doing really well suddenly doesn't have anybody on the web page, they're not interacting, they're not buying, it's like, okay, why is that happening? Are you not maybe telling the story of your product strongly enough and people don't fully understand it and they want to learn a little bit more? Then you could just maybe add a little bit more in your product description. Maybe you had your shipping settings turned on to a strange setting, and it doubled the weight, and all of a sudden that product is really expensive, and that you see it's a piece that's abandoned in cart pretty regularly. It's like when you look at those analytics, you almost will naturally see some red flags and go, okay, something's really off here, let me figure it out. Sometimes you're just going to have products that do better than others, and that's okay, but it just helps you make decisions based on how you want to put your products in front of your customers. Or if you're looking to pare down your product line, and you kind of can look at your analytics and say, okay, here are the top performing products outside of just sales. And if those numbers correlate with one another, then you kind of know where to trim the fat around your business and what products are really not doing the right thing for you anymore. And same goes for social media. If a post gets saved or shared a lot, make sure you pin it, make sure you reuse it. You can also boost the post. We recommend that before you just kind of put a lot of money out into social media ads, you can essentially for free organically test to see if people are going to interact well with that piece of content. And then when you get some insights back that show you that it is performing well, then you can put some money behind it instead of just throwing spaghetti at the wall, as we like to say, and hoping for the best. It saves you a lot of time and energy, and you already kind of know what to expect. You can also spotlight a product like that in an email, and just kind of go from there. So essentially the whole point is that these little insights, they might seem like a little too nitpicky, but they all add up at the end of the day. And bit by bit, you're going to be able to build a stronger online presence, and just have clearer offerings. Because maybe what's really happening is that your messaging is just getting muddled, and a lot of people are going to your website, but they just fully don't understand what it is that you're offering. So this could really just guide your decisions on simply paring down text, getting better product photos, or knowing which products to actually highlight. There's a lot of things that you can do, but keep looking at your insights as time goes on and continue to tweak your online presence across the board.
Absolutely agreed. It'll bring everyone a lot of clarity, I think. All right, so next up, the elusive SEO or search engine optimization. I bet everyone has heard this once or twice. Can definitely feel like something that is just sort of floating out in the ether, but it is absolutely key to helping the right people find your website, business, and products. Essentially, the better your SEO articulates what your business does accurately, the more likely you're going to come up in search, and the more people that interact with your website or products then have a positive experience, meaning they found what they're looking for, the higher Google and other platforms are actually going to rank your page. So this is very important. So you essentially want to be just bringing on the right traffic, and then also giving that traffic or that customer exactly sort of what they were looking for. And the more times that happens, the better off you're going to be. So that's why this is so key. So when starting out, you want to imagine that your customer will be searching online in order to find you. And the more specific you can get, the better off you'll be, essentially with keywords. Those key terms then can be interwoven into your website via image names, product descriptions, URLs, blogs, and more. So the list goes on. And there are some free online tools that you can use to actually build out your keywords. And these are on our worksheet as well. One being answerthepublic.com and ubersuggest.com, just to name a few. So there's a lot of kind of SEO building platforms that are going to help aggregate information in order to give you a better sense of which key terms you should actually be using on your website for the type of product you're selling, or your industry, or the service you're offering. And then once you actually have chosen some of those proven keywords, then the next step is to kind of weave them into your website in a bunch of strategic ways. A couple of those being some that I mentioned above, being like, not having an image underscore number, but instead of that, actually writing, what your image is. It will be better off for you in the long run, just because when someone actually searches in Google, there is a better chance that the image with the actual title that's going to come up in a Google search versus this image that's untitled, for example. So once you weave that in, the writing should just be as clear and concise and say exactly what you want to do or what your product is. And essentially, voila, you're on your way to some great SEO. It's a very kind of in-depth practice, but this is kind of just the top or the tippy top of the iceberg. But I do feel like everyone can start, implementing little steps. Even writing a blog is huge. You're just kind of feeding the information or feeding the internet information that it needs to better understand what you're doing and help people find you. So that's really the main key here. And it's entirely, free if you want to take a stab at it yourself. And I think that everyone might find that just a couple of little adjustments can really help to drive the right type of traffic.
Okay, so we're going to go over some tips to converting your creativity. And we are very mindful of the fact that most small businesses are on a budget. So a lot of these are budget-friendly tools that will give you the best conversions. We kind of consider these to be the most you can get for a little bit, which is great most of the time. And they'll really help you level up. So the first one being your Google business profile. So when you Google a business, if you're not familiar with this, like your local favorite restaurant or coffee shop, when their listing shows up on Google with those photos and their reviews right away, that's their Google business profile. It is often a tool that gets overlooked if you don't necessarily have like a brick and mortar, but it is huge for local business. It is what people see initially when they Google you. That's one of the reasons that Google implemented it in the first place. So that way, when you search for this particular company and they have a local residence, that you can find them right away. And find their profile there, especially on Maps. There's also an Apple Maps version if you do have a brick and mortar that is free to sign up for and to create your profile, so that way you show up on Apple Maps and on Google Maps as well. So just make sure that you do keep it updated with your hours, your services, and photos. If you do have a physical location, you do technically need to have a physical location to take advantage of this, but a lot of people work around it by saying that you have a home office or a studio space, and you can use that address to get approved on Google. And then you can hide that address so people do not show up to your house or show up to your studio if you do not want them to. So that way you'll still show up locally and people can still find you a lot easier. I would 100% recommend it if you have the ability to do so. It is a game changer of people being able to actually find you without having to put any money into ad spend, especially if you're a newer business. Next, we're going to look at is Linktree or Stan Store, which is essentially another version of Linktree. I'm sure you've seen Linktree a lot if you're on Instagram and you see you only get a link, or now you get a couple links in Instagram, but instead of kind of muddling things up on your bio every time that you want to promote something, you can just click a Linktree or set up your Linktree. So that way you can have as many links as you want on a nice little trackable page that says, if you go into ours, it'll say sign up for our workshop with Boston Women's Market, or apply for X, Y, and Z, or send us a note. Essentially any of the really important call to actions that you want people to see on your Instagram, you can just line them up in order and you can edit them in real time on Linktree, and then that lives on your Instagram bio. And it's just like one of the best tools. So instead of just saying like, hey, shoot me a DM if you want to, get a event ticket or if you want to purchase this thing, you can just say, check out my link tree, check out the link in my bio every time, and it's always updated with the most relevant information. We also really love Canva. If you can't tell, we are currently using the Canva presentation. It's really nice for us to kind of use for workshops, client proposals, and just kind of things that we want to keep branded, but move quickly with, producing content. It's a game changer if you haven't gotten into it yet. Initially, I was like a Canva hater. I really hate to say this, but I was like, oh, it's not going to take over graphic designers and Adobe and the whole nine, but they have substantially improved year over year. As if you're a graphic designer, I'm sure you prefer Adobe. That's what we use to do all of our actual creative projects. But Canva for small business is just really wonderful. It really lets you create graphics that look professional and on brand. You can create flyers, posters, signage. You could search in there a million different things, and they'll provide you with templates for all sorts of stuff. If you aren't familiar, you can also upload your branding colors, your fonts, and your logos. You can set up a branding suite for yourself. So that way, when you look up templates, you can upload, all that stuff in the back end. You can click, Boston Women's Market brands, and then all of a sudden it brands the whole template into your colors and your fonts. And it's almost like magic. You do have to tweak a few things here and there, but it is definitely a great place to start without having to go from the ground up when you're trying to produce something. So definitely recommend that if you are not a graphic designer professional. And if you are somebody who uses Canva but feels like you're really at a base level, Canva has some really amazing tutorials, and they also run a series of conferences throughout the year that are virtual where they tell you all about the new things that they're producing. So if you go on Canva, I think there's another one coming up, or maybe we missed it, but it'll have a little banner that's like, oh, Canva Con or whatever they call it, where they go through a full day of workshops to attend for free, and you can learn like these crazy tricks, both for video and for static content. So always recommend. We personally like to use for email marketing MailChimp, so that's a really cool tool. We put it as this one because they do have a free tier option. So if you're just getting into email marketing, it's a great way to explore it. You can kind of like dive in, grow your email list, and then we're going to touch base a little bit more on emails in a couple of slides, so I won't go too far into that. But there's also a really cool tool called Later, which is basically the same thing as Buffer if you haven't used that before, which allows you to schedule your social media posts in advance ahead of time. So that way you're not glued trying to post in real time all the time. You can batch your content out. You could schedule it out. You could schedule, if you're super organized, you could schedule out months in advance all of your social media content. So you can just stay hands off and not have to worry about it too much. And essentially just check one more thing off your list. And we also really like the idea of using a QR code at Market, which is another like super small budget tool. It's super inexpensive to get done. And it can be totally free if you print it out at home. It makes things much easier for people to check you out later on social media or sign up for your email list on the spot. You can get it set up however you'd really like it to. And just to plug Canva one more time, they do have a free QR code generator. So you can actually just create it right on the poster that you're making. You can just put that link right in there, and Canva will create a QR code right for you. So basically, the thought here is just that you can, do a lot with a little. Simple is strong, and there's some really great free tools out there.
All right. Kind of piggybacking on that, we want to talk about optimizing essentially what you already have, and that you don't necessarily need like every new tool in the book, just to use what you're already using in a more efficient way. So we really want to think about optimization here. For example, if you are using something like Linktree, make sure that your bestseller or link that you're most interested in having convert is the top one on the list. That is the one that, everyone is going to click first. Especially they might explore some of the other links if they're like extra interested in you, but people are, they want quick satisfaction. They want to kind of get in, get out, and they might only take a little bit more time, if they have it, or if they're, like I said, really interested in kind of, following along a little bit more. But make that position of number one count and keep it updated to whatever your relevant call to action is at that given time. So if you're, going to a market and that you're going to be running a sale online that you're going to be sending people to, and you want them to go on your social media and kind of go to your Linktree, go to that, specific link, make sure that that is the one that is top in line. And you can always reorganize these things. But really that call to action is super important, and it is definitely a nice opportunity for you to get some relatively frictionless traffic going to where you want your customers to go. And next up on your site, you do want to make sure that the buttons are calling your customer's name. So the website you already have, might already have buttons galore all over the place, but maybe, they're just not that engaging. So you want to make them want to click, and you want to be obvious in exactly what you want them to do. So you want to be clear and concise, and you kind of want to use verbiage that is actually a verb that will get them into action taking mode. So that is definitely a really simple fix that can take your website from, something that's sort of sitting there inactively to kind of, pushing along a little bit of the action that you want to have happen, like sign up now, shop now, not saying it has to be so salesy, and it can actually be, branded and cute. We do a lot of that at Bloom, but, just make sure it's not confusing. And another great way to optimize your website, if you already have one, is through a pop-up or banner. So the banner kind of being that top bar that just kind of sits static on top of your site, that sometimes, you can set it up so it'll follow you through your scroll, or the pop-up window that'll, show up potentially at a couple different times. You can actually set this up on most websites, whether you want it to show up upon exit intent, or if you want it to show up when they're like 3/4 of the way down, scrolling. And that is really a key way to build your email list. Specifically the pop-up. The banner is a really great way to share discounts, news, really anything that you want your customers to know right away when they get to your shop. But it's something you can easily change out, kind of like your link tree. It's your number one call to action when you get to the site. And then that pop-up is really the key way to collect those emails. I know that everyone finds them potentially annoying, but they work amazingly well. So that content is really top of mind for any customer visiting your site. So make it count. And you might just find that a pop-up with a really great, cute little saying and maybe a discount might be the thing that keeps your email list growing.
And while we're on the topic of email lists, what do you do with those emails? You market to them. If you didn't already know, email marketing is still the #1 best converting tool out there. Some people think that email is dead. Those people need to think again, because they are incorrect. Unlike social, Kara's like, yep, absolutely. Unlike social media, where finding the right people is literally half the battle, if not more. And the platform could disappear tomorrow. Think about TikTok. Think about all the small businesses where TikTok was their whole life, and they would potentially lose all of their customers and their audience, at the drop of a hat. Hopefully TikTok is a little more stable now, but the idea behind that is you don't own those social media platforms, and they could scooch out of here tomorrow and you lose your full audience there. So how do you retain your own audience that you own? And email is the best way to do that, because you own that list. Even if you use Square signups or something like that, make sure that you have access to those emails. So that way, no matter what happens, you have them in a separate spreadsheet. They're all going to be yours. And also keep in mind that, again, these people, you've already found the right people. When you're advertising on social media or you're posting on social media, you're hoping that people are interested in what you're doing. When you have your email list, those people are interested in what you're doing. Whether they signed up on your website or in person, you did something that they liked and they wanted to learn more about you. So these people are already on the line. So you've got them on the line. It's like when you're fishing, how do you kind of bring them in? And email is definitely the best way to do that. So these folks generally have already bought from you, or they're just really interested in what you're doing. So don't sleep on this. As mentioned, you can use a free tool like MailChimp to get started. And when somebody signs up, consider offering them something really interesting to keep them on board and not unsubscribe from you. So whether that's a 10% off coupon, or maybe a $5 off gift, or even just a really informative blog post, give them something that makes them feel good and they want to continue to see what you're posting. Because if you're like me, you get a lot of spam email, and then suddenly one day I'm like, I got to unsubscribe from all of these people because it's driving me insane. So how do you ensure that you're not going to be the one that was unsubscribed to? Make sure that they really like your content that you're sending them. And to that, please don't spam people on the email list, because then suddenly it doesn't work as well. I like to think maybe twice a month is a really good starting point. You can adjust based on your audience. There's plenty of businesses that do monthly, that do once a month newsletters. There's some that do daily, twice daily. Like you have to just learn your audience. Those are generally things that are not product based. If you're a product based business, people do not want to get spammed constantly when you're like, buy this new drop, whatever. But if you're doing a new drop once a month, your customers are likely going to want to know about that. So let them know. And if you're doing an educational blog about why your products are really important, then you could tell them about that too. So you have to kind of find the right balance between what's helpful and what's harmful in your business. And it's really nice to sign up for a paid subscription like MailChimp or MailerLite or something along those lines, where you can look at the conversions of how many people are unsubscribing from your newsletter, how many people are clicking through your newsletter and going through that call of action and doing something that you want them to do. So again, you can actually look at the back end metrics and data behind your emails and make sure that they're performing better. But if you don't have much money in your business, I think that spending a little bit of money on email marketing, because it's not paid, so you can just pay for a subscription with like maybe a bit of a higher tier than free, is like an incredible investment. So great return. Would 10 of 10 would recommend.
Awesome. All right, so we have SEO and then we have local SEO. So local SEO is essentially, it's just local search engine optimization, but is definitely one of the key things for businesses that are relying on foot traffic, local community. It's a really great way to put a stamp on the map to let your customers know that you're there. Essentially, one of the main things that Heather already mentioned is the Google My Business profile. The profile will help your business rank in local searches and is a great way to also gather reviews from customers. And this is one of the main things that I love about the Google My Business profile, because it's a really public kind of reviewing platform that, ranks on Google very well, especially if you're getting a lot of activity. So you can even, gather Google My Business profile reviews at pop-up events via QR code that directly goes to leaving a Google review on your page. So this is something that, if you make a Google My Business profile, you can just pop in there and there is a button you can click to actually open up that QR code and link. So you can also send that to customers too. If you're, let's say you're wrapping up a project with someone and you did a service for them and you want them to leave you a review, you can always just send them along that review, the review link, or even the QR code if you expect them to scan it with mobile, or even have it in, your office if you're have a space for that too. So it's definitely a nice opportunity for you to be able to really tap into local SEO just by ranking high through having activity and also showing that customers trust you. So feel free to even give a customer free something for helping you out with a review, because a little does go a long way on Google. I know for a fact that there are plenty of business owners that, this can really make or break where they stand. I mean, just think about the restaurants that you go to and you look them up on Google and then you look at their reviews and you kind of like, that activity is what helps you decide whether or not you're going to go somewhere or not go somewhere. So even though that is, it works extra well for food places, it can work well for businesses of any kind. And it is just nice to see that people are engaging with your your page and that they love what you do, and they'd be excited to try you out as well, just because of good reviews on Google. Another thing you can do via your Google page is to list your products and services actually on your Google My Business. And it's a nice way for people to get to know what your business does even before they click through to your website, which is, one of the main reasons for having a Google My Business or having a website is really great to link to your Google My Business page. It's just going to help to kind of finish the whole picture. Although that people might land on the Google My Business page first, they often will click through to your website if they are extra interested in what you do, or want to come visit your brick and mortar, want to come buy your product. So definitely even having a landing page, I think, really kind of finishes out a profile.
And that's basically it for the content aspect of today's workshop. And now we're going to get our worksheets out that Kara so kindly sent you in the chat. So if you have your worksheet on your screen, but you can't edit it or don't really feel like writing in that way, feel free to grab like a piece of paper or a notebook if you'd really like to kind of write things out. That's totally fine too. You guys are easy tonight. If anybody has any questions as we go along, please feel free to write it in the chat. So when we're looking at the first part of this worksheet at the top left-hand corner, we're really talking about brainstorming and thinking about what your customers are searching for when they actually want to find you. For my vintage clothing store, for example, our top hits are like vintage clothing store near me, thrift store near me, vintage clothing stores on Martha's Vineyard, sell vintage clothing near me, etc. So you can use phrases, you can use keywords, but the goal here is to really think about what your customers are likely searching word for word in Google when they find your business or when they want to find your business. It's actually kind of interesting to note that there's been a bit of a shift in the world of search recently, with voice searches being on the rise pretty substantially. So when you're thinking about keywords, try to think of ones that sound more conversational and more natural. Like if you're on your phone driving or you're making dinner, which is a little more safe. When you're asking Google a particular question, you are talking in a much more conversational tone than you would be if you were Googling something. And that is getting more and more popular. So just keep that in mind as you're going through your keywords, that you want to avoid the formality, because we are, as a society, falling away from that just a little bit. So be mindful and try to think about how people conversationally will come to you in your business.
All right, so on step 2, we're going to explore a little bit about landing pages and funnels. And what we mean by that is essentially, like something you would set up on your website to, the page that people are going to land on when they're coming from your Instagram, when they're coming from an ad, and whether you have an organic or paid ad, just to think about what you're trying to achieve first and foremost when they actually make it to that page. Are you promoting a new product, for example? If so, do you have a specific landing page that takes your audience directly there? Do you want to limit hurdles as much as possible? And you also want to ask kind of what's the desired action once they're actually on that landing page? Are they looking to sign up for something, buy a product, further explore another page on your website potentially? And essentially just make sure that your call to action is clear and concise so they do exactly what you want them to. So it's kind of this, number one step of ad goal, and then kind of landing on the page that the ad is sending that person to. And this could be, an ad could also be some kind of organic marketing too. It doesn't necessarily have to be paid marketing. And then the last, kind of piece of the funnel is actually that action that you want that customer to take.
So we did get a couple questions, if we want to just kind of go into that, by Christina. The first one is, does the Google Business Profile connect to Google Analytics and the whole Google Suite? So you will find the Google Business Profile as part of your Google Suite, if you have a business account, so that you can kind of go in there and manage it. Like when you have your Google Drive and things like that, you do have a button there for your Google My Business. It doesn't natively connect to Google Analytics, but you can kind of work around understanding what's happening because you get separate information on your Google My Business. And you can also essentially see kind of like where that traffic is flowing through on the Google Analytics side. So it's almost like you don't necessarily need to have them connected because they kind of support one another, but you can kind of still understand where that traffic is going through. And then unless you want to comment on that, Savannah, I'll pop to the next one.
That's good. I think that,
Okay.
Essentially on your Google My Business page, your website link is going to go right to your website. So it's kind of like bypassing Google My Business in a way. So what Heather said.
And then the other one is, are you finding that Google's AI answers affecting site traffic numbers overall? So funny enough, you asked that because I was very curious and I was looking into this the other day, and the answer is we don't know. So obviously, when you type in now and you see the AI and it gives you this kind of like either right or wrong answer, which pay attention because sometimes it's a little bit off and things are not right numerically and things like that too. But they are specifically pulling from different websites and featuring different websites a lot differently than they just normally do for Google SEO and where normal ranking happens. So we are kind of seeing in live time how this affects things and if it's going to be good for small business, bad for small business, neutral for small business, and you just have to kind of continue to work on SEO. I was very much trying to figure out like how do we get into that AI answer box, and I don't know the answer yet. I hope that kind of as we progress forward on that, we'll learn a little bit more. But almost if you start to look into SEO at all, it's very funny because there's no real answer for anything. Essentially, Google secretly updates their SEO parameters every few years, months. They do a tweak here, tweak here. There's all these forums across the internet that are people speculating on what the newest SEO changes actually are. Okay, now they're really focusing on photos. Now they're focusing on the back end of websites. Now they're really mapping out the layout of your website. There's all these things that basically an industry standard becomes relevant where they say, okay, these are things that are certainly affecting SEO. These are things that are maybe affecting SEO. Like we're not totally sure. These things might be more important than the other. So it's a very like speculative world. But there are a lot of like highly advanced experts that is all they do is they are combing the internet, finding out what Google is doing and how you can rank a little bit higher there. So for somebody like us who are SEO, we get into, but it's certainly not the forefront of our business. We can kind of go and find out what is happening in the industry by listening to the research and the experts out there and gear our services towards that. And you can kind of look into that a little bit more. It gets very complicated, but it is quite interesting to see. All right, one more question here. What were the websites you recommend for SEO keywords? I find that sometimes I have a hard time figuring out what keywords might be best or what people might be searching if they aren't specifically looking for my website. Do you have those notes, Savannah?
Yes, I will. Actually, I don't have the chat open because I'm presenting. So could you drop those in the chat? I can tell you the names of them.
Oh yeah, if you don't mind, go ahead.
Got a very long document in front of me. Well, one is askthepublic.com, answerthepublic.com. And then Uber suggests, spelled like Uber, the car share app, suggest.com. And those are two of the main ones that you can use for keyword research.
Yes, and Google itself has a keyword planner that you can also play with for like Google Ads and then Google searches itself. So if you Google, SEO Google keywords, then you'll find that link as well. All right, let's pop back into this worksheet and then we'll take a few more questions. So step 3 of the worksheet, and I hope some of you folks were working on those other 2 parts of the worksheet while we were kind of going through those questions. But please let us know if you have any questions about those. But step 3 is to plug in your Google Analytics to your site. We made this part of the worksheet because it's like really that important. We 100% recommend it. Right on that worksheet on the PDF, you can click here where it says click here to set up your Google Analytics. We had previously mentioned that there is a really great article that's attached to that from Google that really takes you step by step on how to set up your analytics depending on the platform that you have your website on. I would say that if there's anything that you get out of today that you haven't done before, if you're not set up on Google Analytics, that is what I would like you to do. That is your homework for tonight or this week, is to set up Google Analytics and playing with it. It's going to be a little bit scary at first. You're gonna be like, what the heck is this thing? But once you get into it a little bit, you'll start to learn where some of those features are that we had previously mentioned.
Absolutely. And I was going to say too, that if you already have a website, there is a whole, depending on what platform you're using, there's going to be a whole nother slew of analytics that's actually on your web platform natively. That is amazing and great, but Google Analytics essentially is going to tell you kind of like the rest of the story. So you kind of want to use these 2 things in conjunction. Like, for example, like if you're using Shopify, you are going to be able to dive into the nitty-gritty about what exactly is happening on your website in terms of like the types of products that are selling, so that's where a lot of the like product-based information is going to live, but then Google Analytics is going to give you a little bit more of like the SEO traffic, like all of that kind of data. So when you add them together, it actually is a really great full picture. And Google Analytics is really going to assist you, especially when you really want to start getting into like, the world of running ads. And, Squarespace too has a really great, analytics, kind of platform, which they improve all the time, but it still doesn't, kind of do all of the things like Google Analytics does. And so step 4 on this worksheet is essentially we just want you to consider how tracking metrics and data is going to help your specific business. So we gave you a ton of examples today. So we really want you to try to come up with some ideas on how you'll implement them and what, will actually help your business. So not every single thing that we touched on today might feel relevant right now, but maybe it's something, well, we actually very much recommend you take it in stages. So I do think that, just kind of pulling out a few key things that you really feel like might really begin to shift the, move the needle for you, I guess. That's where we'd like you to focus first.
And then you'll see down at the bottom that we do have a bonus, which says, don't be afraid to try something new. If you get anything else outside of Google Analytics, outside of this today, we just want you to kind of think creatively here as to how you'll drive traffic to your website or social media. If that's a particular metric that you're going to be looking at, or if it's a particular, tool that you're going to use that you've learned over the last few weeks, write something there that you want to kind of think on and think creatively. And I think we have a tendency to really get stuck in our own ways or in the things that we already know, because it can be a little bit like scary to really dive into something outside of it. So just maybe one baby step at a time, try something new and give it a go, because you would be surprised, I think, at how intelligent you all are and how easy you're going to be able to pick up some of this jargon. it's really, it's not rocket science. Some of it is, but the base level stuff of it is really not too bad. Yeah. We can pop to the next one, Savannah, unless we have any questions on the worksheet. We do have some questions that are kind of in the chat here. So I'll read.
We're on the right page.
Yes, perfect. All right. So from Erica, she says, I personally find Google Analytics to be too difficult to figure out. So she uses plausible.io, which is a really great option. I think that's amazing. Google Analytics it's a beast to tackle. Like it definitely is. There's some key metrics you'll be able to find there kind of easily. But if it's something that you're relatively new to, it can be really kind of scary to look at. And she does say, do you have any suggestions for very beginner friendly Google Analytics explainers? I know that Google has some like skill shopping courses directly right on their website. So you can search in kind of like Google Analytics for beginners, and the best people to teach you that is likely Google, because they want you to kind of have a good understanding of it, and they have spent a lot of money and time into developing that coursework. So that's what I would recommend, is going on to Google itself and kind of seeing what their coursework looks like. And then, YouTube's like always a fan favorite too.
Absolutely.
I kind of had a related question to that. Do either of you have any recommendations on, or what go-to podcasts, YouTube channels, newsletters do you both subscribe to stay up to date on marketing trends, e-com trends, website, SEO, certain things? Are there any like go-to people you always listen to or anything like that you can recommend?
I personally do Marketing Made Simple as the podcast, if you guys are familiar with that. They really talk about the marketing framework. There's just some very particularly interesting things on there. Some of it I feel like we already know as marketers, but it's nice to know what's going on. And if you're not in the marketing industry, then I think you'll develop a slew of information.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have any.
I'm not a podcast gal. I wish I was. I generally feel like I am a article reader and a researcher in general. I'm going to think on if there's anything in particular. I kind of hop around a lot depending on like what type of information I'm looking for. But I think that Heather's suggestion is definitely a good one, and I'll think on if there's anything else that comes to mind. But I think, generally I try to go straight to the source of like, who's putting out the information and kind of read from there. So I would be the one who would go to Google to learn about Google.
Yes, Yeah, and I just find myself searching things up. Like the other day when I was trying to figure out the AI situation with Google searching, I just try to find websites that almost like back when we were in high school, when they're like, okay, make sure that you get a website that is secure, that is like a real website with some real backing. You know, you don't want to just go to like I know what I'm doing.com, right? And it might be like a little bit sketchy. You know, go to Wired or something where you know that they have like a substantial team of people that are actually writing things up that are accurate and true. The information is full of nonsense, though it is a little bit easier to sift through when you're not looking for politics, you know, and you're looking for very serious information about SEO or Google Analytics or things like that. So, you know, I would just kind of explore the internet. That would be like my best recommendation
I
too.
think too, in regards to like website building and even some like features that are related to marketing and SEO and all of that, there's amazing forums kind of on the back end of the communities of like Shopify and Squarespace and all of that, but it's like a wealth of information from people who are running businesses, you know, just like all of us who, you know, do this stuff every day, which I think is really great. So that's a place that I go to pretty often, especially if I'm looking for like a very specific nugget of information. But even if you're not looking for something specific, they have, you know, really great kind of like entry level, you know, things to kind of, you know, start your journey.
Cool. I think we're just about wrapping up. So we'll hit those last couple slides. And if you do have any further questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat and we'll try to get to them if we can. Alrighty. So again, just re-looking over what we kind of learned today is that, again, you don't have to do it all. There's a million things that you can do in your business, even stuff that we talked about today. Just do what brings you the highest return on your time, or just try something new. That could be your goal this month, is to just try to get comfortable with a thing that you're not comfortable with yet. Every business can take these steps at your own pace. So please don't feel like you're ever behind. Just try to do whatever you can. Even attending events like this really just expands your knowledge base, and you're already doing the right thing. So keep in mind that, you know, we really talked about metrics and data. It's meant to create less work for you and not more. So if you can lean into data in the right way, it's not more work for you to learn. It's actually less work in the long run, like pretty substantially, so you can understand what's working for your business. Don't be afraid to use your own ideas, push into email marketing, direct your time and strength and energy into the right things. And again, this should not be overwhelming. So take your time. Don't make all these crazy changes tomorrow. Look at this sustainably, almost like you're running a marathon. How you can go step by step, because every small step will create a change in your business.
All right. So first, I want to say thank you again for joining us for another amazing Boston Women's Market series. And thank you to Kara for hosting us again. This is so fun and we love being here. We truly appreciate all of you spending time with us. And another side note, Heather and I do have an exciting announcement that Bloom Collective is opening a permanent retail location. So kind of back to our roots a little bit. The location will be in Providence. That'll host retail residencies, workshops, educational seminars, and more. So we'd love any of you to apply if you're looking for an opportunity to meet fellow creatives, increase your sales, grow your business. You know, we are really open to all sorts of ideas being brought forth into this space. That's you know, what we're trying to make happen here. And the application is at the QR code on the screen, but you can also find the details at shopbloompvd.com, which Heather can drop in the chat. But yeah, I'm so excited. I hope that we have another opportunity to run another workshop series with Boston Women's Market down the line. But in the meantime, you can find us at our shop.
Which, as Savannah mentioned, we are super excited about. Even if you're in the area, just pop on our website, because we're going to have some really amazing workshops too. If you're just kind of visiting for the day or something and want to pop in, we'd love to have you join us and also, you know, come in and shop small. We do have a question that says, how does the shop work? We know some of you folks have to go, so, you know, no worries there. Maybe we'll stay just for a couple minutes just to answer that question. And then you always know where to contact us at wearebloomcollective.com. I did throw in our shopbloompvd.com in the chat as well, and that's where you can apply and learn a little bit more about the store. But the shop itself, on the front end, has retail residencies. So we're going to be taking in small businesses on almost like a rent and consignment model, where they are renting space from us, that we can really highlight their brand and connect them to the right customers. We're going to be working on growing your business either at like a wholesale level, e-commerce, or whatever it is that you want to be growing your business with. and 4 while you're a retail resident with us for like 4-month periods of time. We'll also have workshops and events in the back room that are hosted by small business owners. We offer our small business services there, and we'll do lots of community gatherings like networking events and all kinds of fun stuff too. So just, feel free to apply if you're interested. We're basically going to just talk to everybody that applies so that way they can better understand what we're offering, and we'll go from there. You're
That is
very welcome.
super exciting. I can't wait to see it develop. And do you have a projected kind of open date, or is it kind of rolling right now?
It's not entirely rolling. We're definitely planning for the summer, whether or not it's, June, July, I think that's the question. But we will definitely have probably a very specific opening date, maybe about a month from now. So this is definitely very fresh news for us, but Heather and I have, opened shops in less time. So we are just excited to kind of get everyone on board and let's do something really fun.
Very cool. Well, yeah, so thank you everyone for coming. We do have a couple more workshops coming up in the Empower Her series for the spring. So as I said in the beginning, I'm going to be doing the next workshop, really diving into that SEO on the 23rd of April. And then we have a 2-part legal workshop. So talking about all that really kind of unfortunately scary stuff when it comes to the legal side of running a small business. We're going to try to make it not so legal or not so scary. So make sure you sign up for those too. And then we have a couple other topics in the works that are still TBD. So we'll keep you posted there. I am going to be circulating the recording of this. And then on the event page that you registered on, we also have all the past recordings of the workshops there too from the 3-part series. So you can always refer back to any of the parts in this series. But with that, I'll say goodnight to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It was great seeing everyone.
Thank you again,
Yeah,
Kara.
thank you
for
guys.
hosting, and
Yeah.
thanks everyone.
Have a great night, everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Have a good one.
Bye.